It's time for this week's episode of Brandon Sports Talk, featuring in-depth interviews from those who are trending in the world of athletics. And now, here's the host of Brandon Sports Talk, Brandon Pate.
Welcome back to Brandon Sports Talk. In today's episode, I have the privilege to interview the Tusculum Pioneers head women's soccer coach, Coach Vanessa Fyffe. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm doing good. Can you talk about how you knew that you wanted to get started in coaching in college women's soccer?
Yeah, I played my whole life growing up competitively, and I played in college. And when I got to my senior, even in college, I knew I wanted to work in sports. If you would have asked me my freshman year of college, I was going to tell you I was going to be probably more of like a facilities manager or like youth recreational center manager. But when I got to my senior year, I basically had an opportunity to be a graduate assistant, and I realized that I just didn't want to give up the sport of soccer. When that senior year ends and it's all over, then that springtime and you're off from soccer, you're kind of like, what am I doing? So for me, it was a much of a passion. I wanted to have soccer in my life, and I felt that I could best serve it being a college coach. So I just couldn't give it up. So I found a way to make a career out of it.
Of course, what was that like being a collegiate athlete and going to Tulsa?
So Tusculum, it's a small Presbyterian university, and that was something that really attracted me to the university. They have small classes, and the community is unmatched. I love it here that even as a player, when I came as a recruit, I saw my future teammates talking to people across the campus. They were talking to their professors. Their professors came to the game that I attended, and it's one of those things where you're not just a part of like a team, you're part of the university, and the university is part of the community. So you get to be a part of something bigger than yourself. And it's all a very positive situation here.
Of course, what was that like getting to put on that Tulsa jersey and getting to represent?
Yeah. The first time kind of putting on that collegiate career, you get for that jersey, you're kind of stepping into that next level and getting a chance to play what you already love to do and kind of apply the skills that you've spent years cultivating and hopefully finessing. It was definitely a blessing. I know not all high school athletes get to go on and play college, and just getting to put it on was kind of very surreal. I think back to those kind of moments. The first time we stepped onto the field, I was a goalkeeper, so the first time stepping into goal at this level, and it was almost one of those things where, like, at the moment, it's kind of like, is this really happening? Am I really accomplishing some of these goals I've set for myself? And just getting a chance to step on and do what I do best and what I love to do as an athlete.
What was that experience like being a goalkeeper in the collegiate athletics for soccer?
Oh, I loved it. We are. I always make jokes with my goalkeepers that we're a special breed. I like the high pressure situation. Obviously, it's a very specified situation in soccer and position on the field that it comes along with a lot of different challenges and a lot of different opportunities. Being able to be a leader because you're the only position on the field that can see the whole field. So you definitely have a different vision than maybe some of your teammates, and being able to direct them and help them have success, and then being able to support the team in way by saving goals. I always like to say when it comes to goalkeeping, we got to be like a little off our cracker, sacrificing our body for a ball. But I think every position on the field has different skill sets. And for me, being a goalkeeper, I found that out when I was very young. I started playing when I was like in 13, like around 8th grade, and I would never go back. I like the idea of being able to be in a leadership position on the field just from this go start, and just to be able to help my teammates find success and our team as a whole.
Of course, while being a goalkeeper, what was that moment like getting to see the whole field, the whole soccer field, and getting to help lead that team to show
Yeah.
where thoughts were?
Yeah, so as a goalie, it comes with a lot of extra pressure. Sometimes you can be the person that the blame gets put on. So it's definitely a mentally tough position. Not saying that the other ones aren't, but I do feel like stepping into that position is just kind of, you step into it and it just energizes me. Off the field, my players and my teammates would tell you I'm a very bubbly, kind of just how I'm talking right now with my hands and thing. But when I step into that field and I'm on that goal, I'm pure business. I feel like, I'm stepping on as a general and I'm going to direct my team and help them find success. And it was just one of those things that I've been training it my whole life. And it's kind of like business as normal, even playing at the next level. You go with the mindset of like, I've been here before, I've done this before, I can continue to do this. And even with those outside pressures or maybe those different steps when you transition from one level to the next, it's just all a part of it. And it was one of the things that I just enjoyed. I know I've been very blessed to have the opportunity to do so.
What was that feeling like getting to put on that orange Tulsa jersey?
So as a goalkeeper, we didn't wear orange. Our field players got to wear orange. My goalkeeper jersey was gray. It's just the same thing. It's a surreal moment when you make that accomplishment. You set goals for yourself as a player, and for me, I initially didn't. I never, when I was in high school, didn't necessarily a plan to go to college and play college soccer. I was going to go to college, but there was a moment for me where I had some coaches around me say that I maybe had the opportunity and the skill sets where I could find an opportunity to do that. So getting to put on that jersey after all that hard work and training and all the recruiting process that you go through, at the end of the day, it was one of those just kind of moments in life where you look back on and saying, I worked towards this, I've trained for this, and I'm so thankful that I was able to be, very direct with my intentions and get to kind of accomplish a dream of mine, which eventually turned into playing college soccer.
Of course, what were some of your biggest accomplishments on the soccer field?
Yeah. So at Tusculum, I think one of my favorite accomplishments is I am currently, we do team awards every year, and I'm one of two students in the history of Tusculum that got voted by their teammates 4 years in a row for our Team Spirit Award. So that's kind of a team honor, that they honored me with that. On the field, I was a part of the team when we made 3 different berths into the national tournament, which is really, that's just a whole different experience. And as a goalkeeper, I'm ranked 8th in our goals against average. So I'm tied for 8th in that. But I still think my favorite accomplishment is the Spirit Award, because just the fact that my teammates voted me, because it's a team voted award, they voted me for that award, and they kind of like value what I brought to the team on and off the field, was just, I wouldn't give that one up for the world.
Of course, as a player, what was that like going to the NCAA bursts and getting to go to the conference championships and even the conferences?
Yeah. So, as a team, when we're playing and players, my freshman year going, I was just speechless. You show up. We ended up having to play in Florida, so we got to take a charter plane, which was definitely a different experience. I've never got a chance to walk straight to the plane gate side, walk right on with no security, so that was kind of neat. You get to stay, and you get to go through all the things about getting to play, because you get times to warm up on the field, and kind of it's just like this extra energy that comes along with qualifying for the tournament, whether conference or national tournament, that not only you as an individual, but your team as a whole, that we accomplished something and allowed us to maybe make those bursts into the tournament and meet new challenges. Because, at the end of the day, only one team goes out a winner, right? So everyone else that goes has to, eventually you end on a note where if you're not the national championship, you end on a loss. And taking lessons from that can be learned, that, even though we weren't able to go out on the final win, it was still such a moment of like accomplishment that you can take kind of solace in, knowing that your hard work paid off and you really got a chance to like really present yourself, and not just ourselves as individuals and a team, but our university as a whole.
Of course, after your collegiate career, what was it like getting into coaching and getting your first full-time assistant coaching job?
Yeah. So there's kind of, I graduated from high school and I got a position with Moravian College in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania. And it was just, it was so neat to be able to take skill sets that I have honed over years of playing as a player, and then trying to find my way and my path forward, that taking that knowledge and applying it to upcoming young women that want to excel and succeed at this level. And it was just overly exciting for me, just kind of continuing on in the aspect that I just didn't necessarily had to give up soccer quite yet. Because there's a time, no matter what sport you play, there comes a time where you can't do what you've done before. Your body just says, I can't do it. So, getting to continue after my playing career, being involved in the game and helping other young athletes come up and evolve the game was definitely something that was just exciting for me.
What was it like, obviously, getting to coach collegiate soccer right after college?
Yeah, it was definitely a trial and base error. My first coaching job, I'm a little bit younger on the graduation side, kind of how my birthday falls. I'm a spring baby. So I actually had players on my first team that were like a year and a half older than me. But I didn't say that to them when I was coaching them. They didn't actually know that until after they graduated. I had a really great mentor, Bree Smith, that kind of helped me figure out what it is to be a coach initially when I make that first transition. Because I think the hardest thing is as a coach, even though we're there to support our players, we're there to be for them. You still have to find a balance of I'm still your coach, I'm not your friend kind of thing. So helping learn that balance and how do I communicate with my players without overstepping boundaries or making sure I'm still being professional was definitely probably the hardest thing for me as a young coach. Um, and then learning how to best communicate with the players that were underneath me were kind of some of those challenges I faced when I first got into coaching out of college. But it was really great because you just had gotten out of season. I kind of took the spring off and then went right back into not just coaching, but as a coach, I got to be on the field too. So it just felt like home being able to stay on the soccer field.
Of course, what was that like getting to coach at another school, not your alma mater, first right after college, where you did have
Yeah.
that way to obviously set boundaries?
Yeah, so I think, and I always tell our GAs this, like, I think it's good for them to go out, right? If I have a senior on my team that wants to be a GA for me, I try to help them find a placement elsewhere. I think the big thing about that was going to another university, being that I knew I was coming in a little bit younger because of how my birthday fell. You just go in and you act like you're a coach, right? So it's kind of like the joke is always like fake it till you make it. But for me, going somewhere else allowed me to have a space where no one knew me, no one knew who I was, so I could kind of remake who I was in that instance. I came in and just, asserted myself with the support of my head coach, and I was a coach. The players didn't question it. They really took well to my coaching and my different pointers because I worked mostly with my goalkeepers those first few years at Moravian and having that kind of space of there was no pre understanding of who I was. So we was kind of the team getting to know me getting to know the team, but just reestablishing myself as a leader within our staff and within our program there.
Of course, for you, what was that feeling like getting the call from Tusculum to become the next head coach after your coach retired?
Yeah, it was kind of a dream come true. For me, Mike's been here for 26 seasons and I played for him. So I've been around the coaching world for a while. Coaching underneath him, also coaching underneath other coaches. But when he finally retired, when the AD finally offered me the opportunity to take over the program, it was definitely a dream come true. I've always told Mike that if he were ever to retire, I'd love the opportunity to take over the program. And what it is for me is coming back to a place that gave so much to me as a player that I hope that I can contribute to our program and our program's legacy to give back to the program that gave to me.
Of course, when you did get that call, what was that first moment like when you got that call that you were going to become the next head coach for your alma mater?
Yeah, not real. Like I had to almost kind of pinch myself when they finally gave me the opportunity. It was one of those things that, you thank them for calling you, and when you get off the phone, you're just like, you don't know who you call first. My first call was to my parents. They definitely supported me in my dreams and everything. So, but it was just very surreal when I finally got that phone call.
Of course, returning back to your alma mater and getting to step on, what was that feeling like getting to step on to that soccer field now as a head coach and not as a player?
Yeah, so right, that I think that moment will still come. I've not actually been on our game field, so we share a complex with our spring sport. So I've not really, as a head coach, I have not been in our game stadium yet. That will come this fall, but I think it'll be one of those moments for me, very, like I said, very surreal and very kind of full circle, just getting the chance to step onto the field in a different capacity, whether it's a player, as an assistant, as an associate head, and now as a head coach. It almost just seems natural for me. It's Tusculum's my home away from home. I'm originally from Dayton, Ohio. So being able to, step into a new role with new challenges and new expectations. I love a good challenge. I think that's something that motivates me. I'm a big problem solver, puzzles and all this. So getting to step on to the field, hopefully this fall, will just be one of those another surreal moments that I'll kind of take a mental picture and probably remember for the rest of my life.
Since taking over the program, what has that been like, obviously building the coaching staff around you and the players around you?
Yeah, so right now, just being the spring, I'm actually in the process of hiring our staff. So I've not hired anybody as of this moment right now. So that's definitely been a new challenge as a head coach. You're responsible for hiring your staff. So I've definitely been dealing with that. The team overall this spring, they have been great. Being the associate head before becoming the head coach. So I was already kind of here on campus. I already know the team and as my original position as an associate head, but them being very responsive to me this spring has definitely been amazing. I've been putting in some um, new situations of playing, some new strategies that I was trying out. So they've been very receptive and open to that. I'm a big proponent of fitness levels. So we've talked about what the fitness levels are, what it means to be in shape for soccer and what it means to, come in prepared so we can get straight more into playing versus fitness. So it's definitely been, it's been an interesting spring because I've not had this, I think the kind of the new concept for me is as an associate head, you check in with your head coach. We talk about practice plans. And I was like, is this what you want? Is this how we should run it this spring? And I had to check in with anybody this spring. It's been definitely a little bit different for me, just kind of like I got to say for me, I got to plan out the sessions, execute the sessions, and with our GA, with the help of him, we got to kind of just run the spring how I wanted to run the spring, which is it was something new, something different, not having to check in with other people and make sure that we were all on the same page, just being able to kind of run things the way I wanted to run them.
Of course, as a head coach now, what has that been like, obviously getting to step onto the field and also lead your program versus as an associate head coach, you had one person to as your boss?
Yeah. So this spring's been really interesting just because when you take over a program, even though being here as a coach, associate head, when I took over the program in November, we had a meeting with the team, and I kind of briefly talked to them about down new philosophies, new team culture, and things that will be kind of starting to sprinkle in moving forward. And stepping on the field as a head coach, even in the spring so far, because I've not been through a real season or championship season quite yet, that will come in August. But this spring's been really neat because what I love to see, even as an associate head, is the same thing. Applying concepts to our players, having players understand them and execute them within a game has been really amazing for me. And I feel like when you're an assistant or an associate head, even though you are a part of the cog in the wheel, you're not the main part of the machine. So you're still checking in or you're still making sure that your ideas are being heard. But ultimately, the head coach at the end of the day has the final say. So being on the other side of that coin for the spring, being able to kind of work with my graduate assistant and myself and talk about our practice plans, but being kind of the lead voice versus kind of the supporting voice has definitely been a major shift for me. And I've been enjoying it very much.
Of course, what will a typical game day look like for you now as a head coach?
Yeah, so you're let's say we are normally for us, we play games on like Wednesdays and Saturdays. So a Saturday game would be like 2 o'clock for us. You'll most likely for me as a coach, it's probably not much of a difference than I was an associate head outside of the fact that I'm probably going to be more intuitive of kind of our game plan and making sure that I've prepared our players for that game plan, whether it's in our pre-game talk or in the practice days leading up to that. Probably for me as a coach, what I like to do before games, I jam out in the office. I have a certain I have a pre-game playlist, just like my players. Old habits die hard. Our players always come in. They're like, "What are you listening to today, coach?" Because I'll be in here listening to music as they're walking to the locker room, 2-3 hours before game time. But I think for me, the major thing is making sure that not even on game day, but the preparation that goes into it the few days leading up to game day. And on game day, I've really hopefully, if I've done my job, I've equipped my players with the skill sets and the knowledge they need to know. So game day for me is just kind of fine tuning those final moments, those final details, getting our starting lineup out there and getting our team mentally prepared for the task ahead on game day.
Of course, what are some of your game day routines and rituals like as the head coach?
I'm still working that out. Right now, kind of, I think, like I said before, it's just a matter of coming in. I'll come in the office early. I'll just kind of we always make jokes in the office. So on Wednesdays, we have 5 o'clock games. So by lunchtime, we're no longer doing office work. We're doing pre-game work. So that's something I think I want to continue. So that way, those hours leading up to the game time, I always get very antsy in or kind of like energetic that those few minutes leading up to the time where I'm going to join the team, they've gotten dressed, they're coming into our pre-game space where we're going to talk about our game plan and make sure that everyone understands what we're doing that day. So kind of just staying on task. I try on game day to be a cool, calm, and collective presence. I'm not a big yeller on the sideline. That's not who I am as a coach. But what you do get from me as a coach is adjustments, right? So if what we're doing is not working, I'm going to call our players over. I'm going to make subs or whatever it is, and hopefully help our team stay focused and calm under pressure.
As a head coach, what is that feeling going to feel like when you do get to step onto that soccer field for the first time as a head coach?
Yeah, I'm excited. I'm looking forward. So unfortunately, this fall we open on the road, right? So I'm not actually going to get to coach on our home field until we're like 4 games into season. So it's going to definitely be it'll definitely be an experience. It's definitely probably going to be a little bit more, maybe a little bit more emotional day than maybe it would for your average coach or just any average game day, just because for me, it's going to be kind of like a full circle for me, coming as a player and then being committed to this program for the many years that I have been. And then now the program rewarding me and my work for, giving to them and then giving me the opportunity to step on that field. And it's going to be surreal. I know it's going to be a really great day. No matter what happens on that day, it's going to be a great day because for me, it'll be just kind of concretely showing myself that, this was 10 years in the making for me. I knew I wanted to be a head coach. I set a personal goal 10 years ago that by a certain date, I'd be a head coach. And I basically made that deadline by 4 months. So,
Of course, as a head coach, what is that going to feel like to get to coach against some of those teams that you as a player were playing against?
yeah, it's going to be exciting. Our conference as a whole is such a competitive conference. There's very little wiggle room from the top to the bottom. So, it's going to be something where obviously as players, there's certain teams that we have that are just extra competition because they're near us, or player teams that as a player maybe I had a personal vendetta because maybe they beat us one year and the next year I'm like, we're not going to get beat again. So being able to coach against these great coaches in our conference and these teams that that make the South Atlantic Conference so great, it's just going to be an honor because the goal is that I want to be the best and you have to play the best, and I do think some of the teams in our conference are some of the best teams that we'll face along the way.
Who are some of the teams in your conference that you'll be playing?
Yeah. So our conference covers Tennessee, North Carolina, and South Carolina. Some of the closer teams to us are like Carson Newman, Mars Hill. Some of the further teams away from us are like Catawba, Newberry, Limestone, Anderson. So we have teams that are 40 minutes up the road, and then we have teams that are 5 hours from us. So it's a bit of a mix.
Of course, what is that going to feel like to play those teams like Newberry, Limestone, and Catawba?
Yeah. When it comes to the teams in our conference, they're no matter on any given day, any given team, so you can't go in our conference and undermine anybody or think any team you're going to have an easy game. Just because when we face each other in conference, it's always a battle. No matter which team you're playing, you've got to bring your best foot forward because no one's going to give it to you. You're going to earn every goal that you score, every opportunity that we make. We're going to have to earn it. So being able to play teams in our conference versus outside of our conference or in our region, it just heightens it because you're working towards trying to get into the conference tournament, and it's an extra battle. It's something that we enjoy and look forward to every year.
Can you talk about, of course, the culture that you started to build as a head coach for the program?
Yeah. So a big thing that we're shifting for our culture for me is ultimately every coach has their own culture, every kind of philosophy. A big thing for me is the we over me mentality. So what I want from my team is I want us to put the team first. So what that means is we're only strongest as our weakest link, right? when we go out to practice, I want us to breed competition. The idea would be as like iron sharpens iron, right? So if we go out and we're not pushing our teammates, we're not challenging our teammates, we're not going to get better. But at the end of the day, we're still the same team. Even though we go out to practice, we battle each other and we beat up on each other here and there, depending on what practice looks like. At the end of the day, we're all striving for the same goal, which is to find success both on and off the field. So when I think about our team culture, I want my players to think about, you know, if I am asking my coach questions, why am I not playing? Why am I not starting? How do I get more minutes? My first question on a coach is, how do those things help our team? Or what are you doing to better yourself as an individual that's going to better our team as a whole? So it's just kind of this mentality of putting the team first and being okay. We know on every team that every player serves different roles. And sometimes we as players don't like the role that we're serving, and that's okay. Maybe you're a player that's not starting, but you're getting some minutes after 15 or 20 minutes, and you want to get more minutes or you want to be a starter. And that's fine. But a big thing for me is our players understanding that you don't always have to like the role you're currently in. You're more than welcome to strive, and I want you to better yourself and strive for those high accolades, but you still have to be open to serving the role that you are in at the moment and being accountable for yourself and your teammates. So another big part of our culture moving forward, I kind of like to split it up into three pieces, which is character, culture, and community. Character being the individual, that you yourself are responsible for putting extra time in, to holding your teammates accountable, to having the right attitude when you come to practice. Culture kind of reflects more on our team. As a team unit, what are we doing at practice? Are we all on time? Are we all being accountable? Are we all being responsible? Are we representing our team well in the university? What's our team reputation? And then community is kind of that bigger community as a college. I think it's important as a coach to do community service, to serve the community that we're in, get out, meet the people that are in our community, even outside of our college, just because all of those pieces are going to help our players prepare for the future when they do graduate.
What is that home game atmosphere like at Tusculum when you play teams like Limestone?
Yeah. We definitely, depending on whether it's a Saturday or a Wednesday game, because we play at 5 o'clock on a Wednesday, I always find after half the crowd gets bigger, right? So because a lot of sports teams are practicing up until 5 or whatever time it is, but I think it's always an energized for our team. They're doing what they're doing, they're getting pumped up, ready for the game, and then we're stepping onto that field. And I think the atmosphere is just one of those of, we're here to represent our university, we're here to play, and we're here to have fun. You can play hard and be competitive and have fun too. So that's a big thing for us, because I think when players are having fun, they're more relaxed, and then they find more success when they're playing.
Of course, what does that recruitment process look like for those prospective student athletes looking to play collegiate women's soccer?
Yeah. So, every coach has different philosophies when it comes to recruiting. For us, I'm hitting the road. We're watching videos, depending if I'm looking at domestic kids or international kids. I love to get emails from players, because at the end of the day, you got to sell yourself. When you're being recruited, you've got to market yourself so you can be seen. Once we find some players that we think are going to help our program, we invite them onto campus, do visits. I want them to meet our current players to see if they can see themselves playing with those players. And it's just a process. When it comes to recruiting for players, for me personally, I'm looking for a character, right? I really watch myself when I go to games, and I love watching players. I like to see what they do when they get subbed off, right? What's their nonverbals look like? If their coach pulls them, do they go pout and sit on the sideline, or are they up still cheering for their teammates even though they're off the field? Or, I like to go to a warm up and watch, are they taking warm up seriously? So I'm very much a character recruiter. Obviously, we need players that can have the fundamentals, that have that soccer IQ, but your character is very important to me when I'm looking at the recruiting process.
What does that official visit look like at Tusculum?
I'm sorry, kind of caught out there.
What does the official visit look like for prospective student athletes at
Yeah, an
Tusculum?
official visit. So players come, if it depends if they're doing like an overnight or if they're just doing a day visit. Normally, what happens on a visit is they're going to come in, they're going to do a campus tour. After they do a campus tour, they're going to do a tour through our athletic space with myself or my assistant. And then after they do that, we'll normally do a meal. Sometimes that meal's on campus. Sometimes we go off campus, depending if the cafeteria is open or not, and depending on what day it is of the week. And then after that, we have time where they go hang out with the team. So that way they can see the dorms, the living spaces, the apartments. And once they do that, we'll come back together, bring them back down to the office, and hopefully answer any other questions or any other things they want to know about. And then hopefully send them all their way, and then follow up a few days later. And hopefully they've had a great experience and want to join our program.
As a head coach in the alma mater, what is that like getting to see those freshmen put on that uniform for the first time that you put on as a collegiate athlete?
Yeah, so it's magical. And I think we don't ever, when I always talk to our seniors, I always tell them, our freshmen, jokingly, like, 4 years is going to fly by just like it did in high school. But seeing those freshmen step into that uniform and seeing kind of like remembering that moment as my first time being a college athlete, walking to the locker room, seeing my locker, seeing all my kits and all the stuff, all my gear and everything, seeing them kind of have that same magical moment just kind of takes me back to why I do this. It's a big thing for me that I want players, young women, to come into our program and hopefully not only leave a better person and leave a better soccer player, but just have an amazing experience. So that way, when they go out into the world, they're talking about Tusculum and it's positive, but it's very just really neat to see them put that jersey on and see the butterflies, just like they're so excited on picture day. The first time they put that uniform on and we're taking pictures out on the field and they're taking selfies and doing TikToks or whatever else they're doing. It's just a magical kind of moment for me, and just seeing them being so excited about what I was so excited about, several years back.
What is it like seeing those seniors put on that uniform for the last time?
Yeah, it's always heartbreaking, because there's a lot of emotions. It's one of those things where they know that this phase of their journey is coming to an end, and it's just a part of the cycle. Unfortunately, we can't all be college athletes forever. I think some of us, if we could, we would, if there was no regulations that made us move forward. Some of us may be in college forever. But seeing them put the jersey on for the last time, whether it's like the last day of the season or in tournament, whenever that is, it's just one of those things that I know hopefully that they're leaving here with knowledge that we've helped them learn. We've hopefully equipped them with skill sets that they'll need for the future. And hopefully at the end of the day, they're going to leave here better people because they were a part of our program.
Of course, for you, as a former goalie of Tusculum and now a head coach, what is it like seeing your goalies achieve great things like you have when you were a goalie for Tusculum?
Yeah, I'm also our goalkeeper coach, so I guess it's a little self-serving sometimes. No, my players' accomplishments are all their own. That being said, it is definitely, I'm so proud of them. Your goalkeepers are always special, me being a goalkeeper, so they get a little bit more maybe one-on-one time with me because I do their goalkeeper sessions. And seeing them find success just makes me really proud of them, because at the end of the day, our team needs all the pieces working, and having them find success within our program, within our conference, at the national level, if they get those accolades and work hard for it, they've earned every bit of it and they deserve all the credit. It's amazing to see them find success, set goals, and then accomplish those goals.
As a goalkeeper coach, what is that like seeing those future Tusculum Pioneers getting to put on that uniform as a goalkeeper and getting to achieve those accomplishments that you achieved?
Yeah, I always make jokes with them that they should be trying to strive to beat my record. I'm only 8, so it's not too bad. But I know, like, our senior keeper this year that played for us, she's coming for it. She told me that's a goals of hers. When I have keepers come in, they come in green. They don't know what to expect. They don't know what the challenges they're going to face ahead. So seeing them work through those challenges and take on what you have to take on as a goalie just makes me so proud of them. They put all the work ethic in. They are so coachable, and that's all I could ask for as a coach. Seeing them continually can move forward and kind of elevate their play and then commit to the team it's amazing.
As a head coach, what is it like seeing your seniors go on and achieve great things, whether it's going into the NWSL or going into the corporate world or even coaching?
Yeah. I mean, that's what they're here for, right? So it's definitely just admirable for them. That's what they're here for. They're here to get an education while also playing soccer. So I always tell them that they better go out into the world and represent us really well, no pressure or anything. And I always brag about them. We have some seniors this year that have gotten into med school, doing different internships, going across, different countries, going back and having success where they go. As a coach, I want them to leave here prepared. I want them to leave here with aspirations for themselves and the skill sets to achieve those aspirations. So when they go out and they do those things, it just makes me kind of like a proud person for them, and just another person in their corner, letting them know that they've had success. I try to stay on top of my players as much as I can when I see them accomplish things, whether it's in the corporate world, whether it's coaching, whether it's in their home life, whatever it is. When they have great accomplishments, I always try to reach out and congratulate them, because there's just anything that we can do to help them see sometimes I feel like as players, when we go into the world, we're not seen, or they don't feel like they're being seen. So when they go out and they accomplish goals that they set, they should be, praised for it, because it's not easy to do these things and accomplish goals that you set for yourself.
Of course, what advice would you give those first-year students entering collegiate soccer for the first time?
It's hard. For us, a lot of our students come from out of state. They're coming from hours away from home, or even countries, over the ocean. So it's one of those things that you think you're prepared for it, but I always like to tell our incoming freshmen that as hard as it seems, it's going to get easier. They deal, first time year students, they deal with homesickness. They deal with time management can be a thing. They're solely responsible for their, studying and balancing classes and balancing soccer and travel. So it's one of those things where it's going to be hard, but it's going to be worth it. You're going to leave here with a family that you didn't have before you came. You're going to leave here hopefully with a great degree that's going to help you succeed in your future career goals. And ultimately, I always tell them to kind of, not just be involved in soccer, right? So as I want my players to be well-rounded. So I definitely want them trying out, clubs on campus, or getting involved in student government, whatever it is. So that way they have a lot of life experience before they leave us.
What advice would you give those college soccer players looking to go play in the NWSL or even overseas professionally?
Yeah, I mean, my thought is go after it, right? So um, we have players that have aspirations that want to continue playing, and it's a lot about, making yourself visible. Do what you can while you're here, hopefully find success and really show off what you have to offer. And then when you make that transition to that even next level, you've got to go out to those tryouts and just go in knowing that you're worthy. You definitely can do anything that you set your mind to, as long as you're willing to be disciplined and put the time in.
What advice would you give those collegiate soccer players looking to get into college coaching after their playing career like you did?
My biggest thing, I always like to kind of tell them to try to maybe do that graduate route. That's what worked for me. I was able to get a GA position straight out of college, and it gave me a taste of what college coaching would look like. If there's going to be programs that need coaches. So if especially when you're early on in your career, being open to all the levels, all the opportunities across the country. I know something that I did my first move when I moved to Moravian, I'd never even set foot in the campus before I got there. I did a phone interview, and we weren't even doing Zoom or anything yet, right? No Skype or anything. I just did a phone interview, and she offered me the job, and I went. I left 10 hours from where my family lived, knowing no one, and just went. So just be brave, be open to the opportunities that might come your way, and don't be afraid of doing something you've never done before, or going somewhere you haven't gone before, because I think those are the things that are really going to show you who you are as an individual, and only going to make you better. In coaching, I always like to say it's always good to coach under multiple people. Even as a player, I had 3 or 4 coaches throughout my career, from club to high school to college. And all of those coaches showed me different things that were good and bad along the way. And taking that information and putting it to risk and putting it to use is so important. But just be brave and don't be afraid of different opportunities that you may not consider.
What advice would you give those coaches looking to coach at their alma mater, whether it's assistant coaches or even head coaches like you have?
Reach out to the head coach. Something I always talk about within our program. We have in our staff, we have myself, an assistant, a GA, but I've had, play alumni come back and want to volunteer coach and stuff like that. So if that's something that you want to get into, that's another good way to get into college coaching, or even at your alma mater. Reach out to the coach and say, hey, I played college here. I'm in the area. Do you guys need extra hands? I want to come and be like just a volunteer coach, and just be open to, helping out where you can. Or if maybe you don't live near your alma mater and you want to go coach, just reach out to the coach. Just reach out and say, hey, I want to coach. Do you have a space for me? Or can you use my eyes or my skill sets, whatever it may be. But I definitely think building a relationship with the current coach at your alma mater is really important. And for I think my position is a little unique. Obviously, Mike's been here for 26 years, so I had a chance to play for him and coach underneath him. But we built a great relationship, and we're able to really grow on that and learn a lot from each other.
What advice would you give those coaches looking to become head coaches and build their own program and legacy?
Yeah. The big thing about becoming a head coach is, just it's about grinding, gaining experience, which is only can be done through time and effort. Don't be afraid to coach under different coaches, learn as much as you can, get some licensings along the way, get some education and better round yourself out as a coach. And just don't be afraid to apply. I always tell our GAs, sometimes they're applying for jobs and they're requiring 3 years. And I was like, well, at the end of the day, you don't know what other candidates are applying. So even if you don't have 3 years, you still could be the best candidate. So I always like to give advice is apply for kind of those dream job positions and just be okay when you don't get them because maybe you're not quite right quite yet. But worst thing they're going to say is no, right? So don't be afraid to apply at jobs that you maybe don't know if you're 100% qualified for, but just gain a lot of experience, work underneath a lot of different coaches so you get a well-rounded perspective, and then find your own voice along the way. I'm so thankful. I've definitely applied for head coaching positions before now, and I've never accepted them. And I'm so thankful that I didn't, because now where I am in my career, I definitely have a well-developed philosophy and what I want to do and kind of the cultures I want to bring to the program. And I don't know if I would have gotten a head coaching year 5 years ago, if I would have been in the same confident space as I am now.
That's great advice. Where can my listeners find you at on social media along with the Tusculum men's soccer program out?
Yeah, so we can be found at Tusculum Women's Soccer on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. And then for me, myself, on Instagram and Twitter, it's Coach_Fyffe.
Thank you again, Coach Vanessa Fyffe, for your interview and best of luck in your future as the head coach for Tusculum.
Thank you.
You can find
Great
Brandon. You can find Brandon Sports Talk on Instagram at Brandon Sports Talk and Twitter at Talk_Brandon. And you can find me on YouTube at Brandon Sports Talk. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you again, Coach Vanessa Fyffe, for your interview and best of luck in your future.
Thank you so much.
You've been watching Brandon Sports Talk. Please feel free to like, share, and subscribe to Brandon Sports Talk on social media and on YouTube.